Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. So it's the new year, and it's going to be a whirlwind 2023 because, as you know, they've rolled out tens of thousands of the jab, and people are dropping left and right. I know because my friends are. People that I personally knew that I told, don't volunteer for cancer. That's what I said. Those were my words. But you know what? Nobody listens to me because I'm a crazy lunatic, right? Or as Google calls me, a disinformation agent. They even put context headers on some of my videos to make sure that we don't go off the reservation with respect that Jim Jones is a crazy lunatic and Charlie Manson, not his real name, Charlie Miles Maddox, he's a crazy lunatic also, with no job, no bank account, no driver's license, no car, and yet he's traveling all over Alta California, enormous distances, and staying in some really nice estate properties. But he's a lunatic. Yeah, a lunatic that knows a lot of important people like Brian Wilson, stayed in his house for a month and a half. He knows Neil Young. He wrote music, poetry with Neil Young, sitting by the swimming pool at 14400 Sunset Boulevard. You know, he knows Doris Day. He knows Doris Day's son, Terry Melcher. He knows Greg Jacobson, who's a producer for Columbia Records. You know, for a lunatic, he certainly has some important Hollywood friends, right? And Jim Jones, he's friends with Dianne Feinstein, Willie Brown, Joe Alioto, George Moscone, Abigail Folger's mother, Ines Mejia. So he's not doing too bad for a lunatic preacher with Pentecostal holy roller training, right? Anyway, so today's video is going to be on NFL hypocrisy. I mean, we've always known that football is a complete and utter Roman gladiator, preposterous entertainment freak show. It's not a sport. Come on. You do know that football is fixed, right? If television is involved, it's fixed. Now, is high school football fixed? Well, yeah, it's fixed too, but in a different way. They, recruit people from outside their school district in order to win. I remember they did that at Concord at the Jesuit high school, and everybody pretended that it was just good parochial school training. I don't know if I want to mention the name, but Mark McGuire's older brother, Jay, was a distribution agent for anabolic products at the gym that I worked on. So I know a little bit about that. Anyway, what I want to tell you about is everybody who plays professional sports is on drugs. And when I say on drugs, I mean narcotics, okay? And I mean peptide hormones, which are technically not narcotics. They're not drugs. Let's be serious. I'll just tell you, and it begins at age 14 for kids going into high school that do not want to play freshman football, which is ninth grade, for 14-year-olds. So if you don't want to play frosh football, they really want to play varsity, but when you're at 14 years old, unless you're really amped up on the hormones, you're not going to get to varsity, but at least you could be a junior varsity, right? There's exceptions. There's kids coming out of junior high school that are 200 and something pounds that are monsters that can run fast. So they're all on hormones, steroids, essentially, for ninth grade in high school. That's pretty standard. That's how it was when I was in high school, and I'm assuming that has not changed. So NFL football and Disney, ESPN is Disney. Disney likes to capture your imagination and thereby capture you. And they inject women into football as if women are interested in violent hits. I mean, the sport is based on violence. That's the purpose of football, to hurt people. That's how you get people to quit. That's what boxing's all about. That's what football's all about. They call it a contact sport. It's not. It's a violent collision sport. It's not a sport. It's a spectacle. It's Roman gladiators where people get hauled off the field because they can't walk or they're unconscious or they're dead. Anyway, wanted to tell you that NFL football, under Disney and ESPN's guidance, denies that they have a steroid problem. They dodged the baseball has a steroids problem, where Mark McGuire committed perjury, if you remember, and so did Roger Clemens. He committed perjury, but yeah, who cares? Doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's Congress. They all commit perjury. Anyway, my point is they deny that anyone is using steroids in a violent sport, which you couldn't possibly participate in unless you were amped up on amphetamines and on steroids. I'll go down the list of some basic products that they all use. Everybody, 100%, no exceptions. Then they also brag and boast that they're 94% vaccinated against COVID. 94%. They're not just talking about the players, talking about the managers, the coaching staff, the secretaries that work in the marketing departments, that 94% of all NFL-related people are fully vaccinated. Now, which I totally do not believe. I think very few of the players are vaccinated in any professional sport. Because if they were, it doesn't make sense, because the reason that they take amphetamines and narcotics like heroin, like cocaine, like caffeine, injected caffeine. I'm not talking about a cup of coffee. I'm talking about injecting caffeine. Subcutaneous injections. That's what I'm talking about. So if you're going to take injectable products like growth hormones and amphetamines and cocaine and heroin, why would you ever want to chase it with a experimental jab, bio, nanotechnology, mRNA vaccine? I mean, there's no performance capabilities in a vaccine. These athletes take performance-enhancing drugs. They don't take anything that doesn't enhance performance. In other words, a sleeping pill to help you sleep and an amphetamine to wake you up in the morning. You betcha. So you're not just a grumpy old man at age 18 running around your kitchen. All right, so I this morning had to listen to all this Poppycock presentation of what we saw on Monday Night Football, the first Monday Night Football game of 2023, and we have Demar Hamlin, age 24, who's a safety for the Buffalo Bills, New York, and he drops dead after a play, after a tackle. Well, he drops down as if he's dead, and he's unconscious. And nobody in the media will say that he's dead, and no one will say that the truth, which is that every single football player that was on that field knew he was gone. He was gone. And they canceled the game. They didn't play anymore. Nobody played any more football. And that's astounding, because you may remember back in November 18th, 1985, that's a ways ago, 35 years ago, November 18th, 1985, Joe Theismann, playing for the Washington Redskins, he dropped back to pass and was torpedoed by Lawrence Taylor of the New York Giants, who landed on him and snapped his tibia to where the bone stuck out and made a 90-degree turn where his foot is facing his helmet. And Joe Theismann had to be taken off the field in a stretcher and never returned to the game of football again, ever. Okay? And the media didn't spend the entire next day, on Tuesday, telling the public that to unsee what they saw. They spent very little time. They just sort of moved on. They just moved on to the NBA basketball playoffs or the NBA season. They didn't want to talk about the Joe Theismann situation for Monday Night Football, which is the premier event for the NFL, and it has very high ratings. And they just moved on. But see, not so now that we're in the land of COVID vaxes, right? So they did come out with a story saying that the vaccine deniers are floating a story that Demar Hamlin was maybe killed by the jab. Well, you can solve that problem real quickly. Just give me his vax status. Show the paperwork. They say that 94% of all the NFL players are vaccinated. If that's true, Demar Hamlin is vaccinated. There's a 94% chance he's vaccinated. And if so, this could be a vax-related injury. Obviously. I mean, a mentally retarded person could see that. But look, me personally, I don't think any of these players are vaccinated, okay? Because they're not stupid, okay? They're already amped up on dozens of products. They don't need to throw aluminum oxide into the mix. But anyway, my point is that the ESPN and all the shows that get paid on violence in NFL football, they're going to deny that there's anything to do with the vaccine. No one's talking about the vaccine at all in connection with the Demar Hamlin story. But anyway, after the Joe Theismann incident where nobody cared that he snapped his leg above the ankle and was never going to play football again. That was in 1985, November 18th. And then just 5 years later, on March 4th, 1990, Hank Gathers, who plays for Marymount Loyola Jesuit CIA Indoctrination Center in Culver City, over there where Ronald Reagan, polished his career for war propaganda, where the Ann Heche fiery car crash that never happened. Hank Gathers dropped dead during a West Coast tournament basketball game, dead as a doornail. This is before the vax. This is before COVID. So it is possible to play basketball, have a heart attack, and hit the deck. We know that happens in cycling. We know that happens in soccer. We know that happens in swimming. We know that happens in track and field and running. It happens in sports where you blood dope. If you're participating in blood doping, there is a fairly persistent, regular heart attack rollout. It's all covered up in the media. They don't cover it. That's why you don't know about it. I'm a professional on this. I've been paid substantial amounts of money in the tens of thousands to be involved with litigation support where I educated imbecile lawyers on the use of peptide hormones in sports along with narcotics. Okay, I just go down the list. So narcotics are amphetamines, fentanyl, cocaine, stimulants, Ritalin, which is supposedly a, what do you call it? ADD drug. It's amphetamine, okay? And then what other drugs we got? Well, we got heroin, morphine, which is processed heroin. Those are the 5 main stimulant products. There are others. Then on the other side of the equation, we have peptide hormones, which are not narcotics. That's testosterone. That's cortisone. That's cortisone plus testosterone, known as corticosteroids. Then we have human growth hormone. Then for endurance-based sports, where you have to recover within 20 hours of the next event, we have glucose feeds chased with insulin on an IV feed, IV drip. So you'll have insulin plus glucose, so you won't have an insulin shock, but you'll have super anabolic recovery of your muscles, which have been torn down through your event. Then, and we're not done yet, then we have blood doping. There's a whole cavalcade of blood doping products. There's Amgen Corporation, where the president lives in Montecito near Ellen DeGeneres and Rob Lowe in Montecito, which is a colony for clandestine services. Amgen Corporation produces, their number one seller is EPO, known as Aranesp. It's known as Epigen, Aranesp, and Eprix. It's marketed in continental Europe under the banner of Eprix. And you don't even need a prescription from a doctor to purchase it in the countries like Belgium. You can just walk in and ask for that. So you've got blood doping. That expands your oxygen-carrying red blood cells so that you have more endurance. And there's also synthetic hemoglobins, and that would be cow blood. Or in the case of Lance Armstrong, he used Norwegian calf blood from Norway. His product was called Actovegan. But they also manufacture a number of different cow blood products in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in close proximity to Harvard University. They have a BioPure company that produces a product that I'm trying to remember the name of, that if a person who was going to win the Tour de France was using, HemoPure. HemoPure is their product that's created by BioPure in Cambridge, Massachusetts. However, they disqualified him before he could stand on the podium for failing to call in his coordinates during a training ride, as opposed to having him embarrassed as being on the top step of the podium and then outed as a Cambridge, Massachusetts HemoPure user, because we had a witness come forward who was a professional mountain biker who delivered the HemoPure to him in Milan, Italy. True story with Michael Rasmussen for those cycling aficionados. Michael Rasmussen used cow blood from Cambridge, Massachusetts, near Harvard University. Yes. See, I didn't even mention Stanford yet, because you know they've got things going on over there too, right? All right, so after Hank Gathers dropped and hit the deck on the hardwood last year, remember just last year, a couple days ago, it was 2022. Well, on June 21st, 2022, Jaylon Ferguson, age 26, who played for the Baltimore Ravens in Maryland, he went to sleep on June 21st and he didn't wake up. He died. So could that have been a vax injury? I don't know. They won't tell you. They won't tell you Jaylon Ferguson's status. What they will tell you, he's 26. He's the father of 3. He has a son and 2 daughters, and he has a fiance. He doesn't have a wife. So in other words, he's a baby daddy of 3 children, and he doesn't have a wife, but he has a fiance. Don't know if the fiance is the baby mommy. Don't know that, because the media never tells you the details. So I don't know if he's vaccinated. I don't know if he had a wife and he got a divorce, or if the baby mommy is his fiance. Because that's the reality of football, is that these people are all very dysfunctional. But it's presented by Disney Corporation through ESPN as a lily white, clean sport. And they have all these attractive women that present a violent sport, Roman gladiator style, where every single person that you see on television is on 24 doping products. I'm going to throw steroids in with the amphetamines. So you have amphetamines, and then you have all these anabolic products, and cortisone is catabolic. However, it is anti-inflammatory, and we do want anti-inflammatory since virtually all athletes play injured and are exceeding their limit. Same with the horses at the track. If you bet on the ponies, you're betting on doped ponies. Don't take my word for it. You could ask Lino LaBianca. Oh, I forgot. He got bayoneted to death. So you could ask Peter DeSantis, his older brother-in-law, because Peter DeSantis knows. For sure, Peter DeSantis knows. I don't know if he's related to Ron DeSantis' family, but they all are associated with CIA. Every single DeSantis that I know has some affiliation with clandestine services. Anyway, so we had Jaylon Ferguson die, and then weeks went by, and then they said, oh, it was fentanyl and cocaine. So the squeaky clean image of the NFL is, no, it's not a vax injury. He was on fentanyl and cocaine. Really? When he was asleep? He takes cocaine and fentanyl to go to sleep? I mean, shouldn't he take a barbiturate? So nothing about that story makes sense. He went to sleep and died in his sleep, but he's on cocaine and fentanyl. I don't believe that. I do believe he uses fentanyl and cocaine. You know, like during practice. Sure. Not bedtime. And then anyway, last night on Monday Night Football, we have Demar Hamlin, age 24, for the Buffalo Bills, safety, makes a tackle, stands up, then immediately falls onto his back, looking like he's dead as a doornail. And I don't know about you, but every person on that field thought he was dead. And they canceled the game, which they didn't do for Joe Theismann. They carried on. The New York Giants continued to conclusion with the Washington Redskins. Didn't do that last night. And then today they're spending a whole day about how we were praying for Damar Hamlin and we really concerned about his family. And, we'll give you new updates as they come. They haven't said one new thing. They've never told me his vaccination status. They never told me if he's on fentanyl or cocaine. They've never told me anything that I need to know to understand what happened, right? That's what they do with Charlie Manson. That's what they did with Jim Jones. That's what they did with 9/11. That's what they do with every clandestine services performance. They talk about what didn't happen. And the NFL football is a part of CIA operations. It's pacification and control. If you're watching NFL football, then you're not having a neighborhood meeting about what to do about the 5G mesh in your neighborhood, right? They don't want people having meetings about the 5G mesh in their neighborhoods. They want you watching football and drinking beer and getting boosted. That's what they want. All right, that's my topic today. That concludes my discussion. Please hit the like and subscribe. The amount of hypocrisy on televised sports entertainment, it's rigged and it's fixed. I guarantee that. I have personal inside knowledge on that. Okay, the umpires, the the umpires, the referees can easily throw a flag or not throw a flag. 80% to 90% of the penalties on a football field are not called. That means they're on a quota because they can't make a football game into a 7-hour event. So they're not permitted to call all the penalties. So it's real simple. The team that's going to lose gets penalized the most of the time. I understand there's exceptions, but generally speaking, the zebras are told to throw the flags on certain teams that the television advertisers would prefer would lose, so the other team can advance. That's how it works, people. It's all about the money, honey. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.